Hey there, history nerds and curious weirdos. Welcome back to Naked History Debrief, the sticky after party of our main episode on the Great Molasses Flood. If the main show was the epic novel, this is the footnote that you didn't know you needed. In the debrief, we sweep up the myths, the details, and the weird bits that didn't quite fit into the big episode. And the molasses disaster is tailor-made for this. The truth is wild, and the myths are wilder, and the receipts, are gooey. So go ahead and grab your metaphorical mop and maybe a pancake, and let's dive into naked regrets and separate the sticky fact from even stickier fiction. Now, first up, the tank's owner, U.S. Industrial Alcohol, needed a villain because we built a 5-story tank badly next to homes just doesn't really play great in courts or the press. Cue the early Red Scare. 1919 Boston. Labor unrest, mail bombs in the headlines. The company floated sabotage by anarchists as the cause. It sounded dramatic. It also didn't match the evidence. Across 5 years of hearings, court-appointed auditor Hugh W. Ogden sifted thousands of pages of testimony. He found a pattern of leaks from the day that the tank went up, children literally collecting seeping molasses from the tank, skipped hydrostatic testing, thin steel, poor rivets, and a structure that groaned under load. In short, negligence in a structurally deficient riveted tank, not explosives, was the thing that caused the catastrophe. The company settled for roughly $628,000 in 1925, or roughly $11.6 million today. Families of those killed in the catastrophe received about $7,000 or $130,000 in today's money. Somewhere a very tired anarchist PR rep whispered, "We do many things, but we do not blow up pancake toppings." Now, as to why the sabotage story stuck, it fit in the moment. Rapid temp swings, fermentation gas, and material brittleness made the failure sound explosive. But there was no residue, no device, no witness, just a badly designed tank next to a very, very busy neighborhood and a company desperate for a scapegoat. Up next, you'll see that 40 feet in the headlines is a descriptor of the wave, and it's kind of cinematic. It's like a syrup tsunami cresting over rooftops. Contemporary accounts and later reconstructions, however, put the surge front around 15 feet, with local peaks up to 25 feet. Now, that's still a 2-story wall carrying timber, beams, and steel at a terrifying speed. That's more than enough to cave in an elevated railway supports and sweep a truck toward the harbor. So where does the 40 feet number come from? It's likely a game of historical telephone, mixing the tank's 50-foot height, chaotic early reporting, and the very real sensation from street level that the world turned into a brown wall. In reconstructions and science explainers, you see the consensus narrow down to 15 to 25 feet. So picture a fast, debris-choked surge turning corners into cul-de-sacs of doom. No Hollywood skyscraper needed. And if you're standing in front of it, it's not really that you're measuring in feet, you're measuring in how long till my lungs fill. The answer is not long. Last up for our naked regrets is, how slow is molasses? Well, slow as molasses in January is the phrasing, right? Well, not when it's freshly delivered and warm on top of colder layers, bursting into open air and racing downhill as a gravity current, the same physics family as mud flows and lava tongues. Multiple analysis pegged the initial front up to 35 miles an hour before cooling cranked the viscosity and the goo locked into a suffocating trap. 2 things killed the victims of the flood: impact, which included structure plus debris, and asphyxiation, the thickening syrup pinning the bodies and clogging airways. Rescuers said that they had abandoned boots to move. Survivors described being tumbled end over end, then stuck, unable to draw a breath as syrup slowly sealed nose and mouth. That just jog line kind of melts under basic fluid dynamics and eyewitness physics. Class, molasses is a non-Newtonian diva. Warm and she's smooth. Cold and she's concrete. And she absolutely does not care for your mile time. Now, next up, we're going to be talking about the cleanup. Now, first on the scene, we're not firefighters, but 116 cadets from the Massachusetts Nautical School training ship, sprinting in from the pier to pull people out from shoulder-deep molasses. Then came the firefighters, the police, Army and Navy personnel, and eventually Red Cross nurses. Now, when the wave and the recovery finally subsided, Boston faced an even stranger nightmare: the cleanup of the tubs of molasses covering the streets. Now, the streets weren't just wet, they were coated. Basements filled with syrup, cobblestones sealed under a sugary glaze, boots stuck to the ground, and horses couldn't even be moved. Now, the city threw everything it had at it: fireboats pumping salt water to blast away the goop, sand shoveled into slick streets just to soak it up, and even then, the molasses clung to walls, windows, and everything it touched. Workers tracked it into trolley seats, into telephone booths, even into offices downtown. One reporter even quipped that everything a Bostonian touched was sticky. Now, the staggering part is, by the time that the city called the job done, it had taken over 87,000 worker hours to scrape, wash, and shovel Boston clean. That's thousands of shifts, weeks of exhausting labor, and a harbor turned brown from syrup runoff. As for the smell, weeks, workers tracked syrup into streetcars, phone booths, and across floors, and locals swore that you could smell the molasses in the summer years afterward. These details run through city and history write-ups for a reason. They show how disasters linger sensorily. Now, Boston candle makers, call me. Summer molasses, notes of caramel, sea air, and trauma. And one of my favorite notes from this episode was the fact that the tank was painted brown to hide the leaks. Now, it wasn't an urban legend, it was testimony. Described chronic weeping and patching and caulking and the cosmetic cover-up to keep the tank looking like it was new. Management also skipped a proper water test before service, a standard practice even back then. Now combine the thin plates, poor rivets, cold, brittle steel, rapid top-offs from warm cargo, and fermentation gas pressure, you get a structure primed to unzip along its seams. It's not really engineering, it's just arts and crafts. Problem solved. It's brown now. As for a visit to Boston, where you would stand to feel the history today, head to the Langone and Pupilo parks in the North End. For the centennial in 2019, UMass Boston archaeologists used ground-penetrating radar to pinpoint the tank's exact footprint under the ball field. Folks ringed the outline of the tank and read the victims' names. It's a chilling, but very beautiful, that a kid's infield overlays a failure that reshaped safety rules. And just a little touch-up, why there was so much molasses in Boston anyway. Well, beyond World War I alcohol and looming prohibition stockpiles, Boston molasses story runs back to the Triangle of Trade and New England rum, an uglier economic engine of the 1700s that fed even colonial outrage over the Molasses Act and later Sugar Act. It's part of why John Adams called molasses the sinews of New England trade. The 1919 tank isn't random, it sat atop centuries of sticky economics. And that's where we'll leave Boston's Great Molasses Flood. Streets scrubbed, harbor stained brown, and a city that spent nearly 90,000 worker hours just to get the stickiness off the walls. If nothing else, it's proof that history doesn't always come wrapped in epic battles or royal intrigue. Sometimes it arrives in the form of 2 million gallons of sugar syrup rolling downhill faster than a trolley. But don't worry, we're not done with disasters just yet. Next time, we're heading out to sea, where the water is just as dangerous, and one remarkable woman seemed destined to face it over and over again. Her name was Violet Jessup, A nurse, a stewardess, and against all odds, one of history's greatest survivors. They called her the unsinkable woman, and her story is equal parts terrifying and inspiring. A reminder that sometimes the biggest twist in history isn't the disaster itself, but the people who somehow lived through them. So, join me next time for the tale of Violet Jessup, the woman who proved that lightning, or in this case, icebergs and explosions, really can strike the same place more than once. And hey, if you've been enjoying these stories, don't forget to follow, rate, and subscribe to Naked History wherever you're listening now. That way you'll never miss an episode, whether it's molasses running through the streets of Boston or an unsinkable woman staring down the Atlantic. I've been Dylan Gassaway, and hopefully you've enjoyed Naked History or Naked History Debrief. So hopefully we'll see you in the next episode, and always remember to stay weird, stay curious, and stay naked, historically speaking. Have a good one.